The story begins with a dark atmosphere in a high school girl's room. She continues to stare at her laptop screen while editing something. After a while, the door is knocked on by her mother, who asks why the package always comes to the house, even though the mother feels that she has never given more money to her daughter. The girl's name was Kuvei Jin. It turned out that she was editing her photos to be super beautiful and uploading them on social media. Her editing skills made her famous on social media, and she got a lot of endorsements. But in the morning, everything changed in an instant. Bae Jin was the ugly one in the class. She even got bullied by her prettier friends. The bully girl was named Yang Hanul. She would stop bullying A Jin after the teacher came to her class. A Jin realized that her existence in class was very unpopular, but when on social media, A Jin became an idol for everyone. A Jin is very good at makeup, using softlens and using wigs. Inside A Jin's room, it was set up like a photo studio. Then after that, she posed in front of the camera. She carefully edited her face until it turned very beautiful. A Jin uses a fake name on social media to be Jenny. Her followers even reached 770,000 people. All the endorsed items she wears have a huge impact on her fans. Maybe at school he was the one who was overlooked, but after school she gets love from many people. On social media, she has online friends who are also part of her fans. A Jin often confides in them if she gets bullied at school, but the online friend, who uses an account called mshorror, always tries to support her. In addition, her mother is often confused about how A Jin can have a lot of luxury items and can buy delicious food, even though she is still a student. It turns out that it's all the result of an endorsement. If you are beautiful, you can get everything easily. That's how A Jin thinks. But the funny thing is that all endorsing brands have to pay with cash in an envelope. She simply doesn't want to use an account number in transactions so that her identity is not revealed. Everyone is curious about how mysterious Jenny is. She felt that during her time as Jenny, she was like a superstar. All of her ego and vanity were fulfilled on social media, but when she returned to her real life, she was constantly harassed by a beautiful girl named Hanul. But it turns out, Hanul, the bully girl, really admires Jenny. She always snatches the things that A Jin wears at school, because the items are similar to the ones Jenny wears. In fact, A Jin and Jenny are the same person. But this bully didn't realize it at all. It turns out that in order to avoid bullying, A Jin still wore endorsed items to school so that Hanul could grab them. Hanul is the owner of the mshorror account, who is friends with Jenny on social media. During the day, they become enemies, but at night, they become friends. The loner A Jin always eats lunch on the school roof alone. But unlike that day, she was visited by a pretty handsome guy named Lee Jin-sung. They are in different classes, but always meet at break time. To be honest, A Jin secretly has a crush on him. But A Jin felt that she didn't deserve to be with Jin-sung, so A Jin chose to keep her feelings to herself. That day was a good day for A Jin. She wasn't bullied by Hanul and got a pretty compliment from Jin-sung. It looks like A Jin's love wasn't unrequited. Jin-sung asked her out for a date on her day off. A Jin is happy because she can be herself without having to be Jenny. At home, it turns out that A Jin doesn't have a good relationship with her parents. She seemed indifferent when her mother invited them to have dinner together. She even prefers to eat with Jin-sung. That day, A Jin was very happy to be able to eat well with a person she liked. Plus, Jin-sung seemed very attentive when he wiped A Jin's smudged lips, but she tried to deny her feelings so as not to be too heartbroken if she was rejected. On the other hand, fans on social media began to notice the many edits in Jenny's photos. Moreover, all the photos were always in her studio room. They also forced Jenny to occasionally take photos outside the house. They were curious about Jenny's real face outside the house. After dating with Jin-sung, she said goodbye and claimed to have an event with her family. In fact, she secretly went to a cafe and dressed up as Jenny. With just ordering iced tea, she took as many selfies as possible. Then she totally edited her face and uploaded it on social media. She hoped that everyone would believe that Jenny had a real face in the real world. And again, her ego to be praised was satisfied. On the other hand, A Jin, who disguised herself as Jenny, confided in her online friend Amski. Here, she tells her that she just went on a date with someone. Here, Amski is very kind and always supports Jenny's happiness. Amski, who is very curious about Jenny, invites her to meet. But Jenny argued that she had panic disorder in public places. Here, Amski tried to understand her. When Jenny went to sleep, suddenly her social media account received a message from an anonymous person who said that he had met her earlier in the day. And according to him, the real Jenny was very different from her photos on social media. A Jin immediately panicked when she saw someone secretly filming her taking a selfie. Actually, A Jin's life is like not others normal people. Every night she has nightmares. In her dreams, she always saw a woman with Jenny's face covered in blood. That morning, Jin looked uneasy reading an anonymous terror message. Even when Haenul came to bully her, she dared to fight back because she was so focused on all the anonymous messages. When she was exercising, she got another message. If it turns out that the anonymous was in school with her, and she is now being watched by him while exercising, plus it turns out that he found out that Jenny is Jin. Instantly, Jin fainted from shock. After a while, it turns out that Jin Sung, who happened to pass by the field, immediately ran and carried her to the school clinic. Haenul, who saw that, looked very displeased. At the school clinic, Jin claimed to be anemic and asked to rest for a while. Then came Jin Sung, who was worried about her. Here, Jin Sung wants to contact Jin's parents and borrow her cell phone. But quickly, Jin immediately grabbed her cell phone. It turned out that because Jin fainted, her friends thought that Haenul was the troublemaker. Haenul was called to the teacher's room and scolded. Haenul was asked to apologize to Jin and not to bully her again. Reluctantly, Haenul finally agreed. Then scene moves to the roof of the school, where Jin Sung is already sitting there, waiting for Jin's come. Here, Jin Sung seems annoyed that Jin only brought bread. She had just fainted during gym class. Quickly, Jin Sung swaps the lunches so that Jin can eat rice and enough protein for her health. However, Jin, who is super negative thinking, thinks something bad about it. Jin is very afraid that if Jin Sung finds out who she really is, their relationship will be strained. In her imagination, Jin Sung will definitely insult her. Plus, surely all the classmates will bully her. Jin, who imagined all of this, broke out until sweating so much. Jin Sung, who saw her, thought that she was sick and then held her head. But Jin avoided because of her excessive panic. In the classroom, it turns out that Haenul really apologized for bullying her all this time. Jin still confused her, who was the person who bullied her all this time. But suddenly, her reverie was startled by Jin Sung's arrival behind her. Jin Sung then waited for Jin so he could take her home. Here, Jin blushes. On the way home, they stop to buy milk tea. Here, Jin Sung misfocuses on the pretty full moon. But to the humble Jin, she doesn't see the beautiful moon at all. For she, the moon only looks beautiful when viewed from afar or seen semicircular or crescent. But when approached, there are many holes and imperfections. But here, Jin Sung denied it. For him, no matter which side of the moon you look at it from is still beautiful and still full without trying to cover up its condition. Here, Jin tries to deny her feelings. Even when Jin Sung has shown his interest, Jin chooses to avoid him. At night, many fans are looking for Jenny, as she hasn't posted in a week. Meanwhile, the brands that endorse her are now starting to protest because Jenny is late posting products. Jin is even more stressed out as she is stricken with fear of anonymous terror. In the morning, Jin is still being harassed by Haenul's friend Ju Se-hee, but suddenly, Haenul defended her. It looks like she's serious about apologizing to Jin. Meanwhile, Jin is still focused on staring at her cell phone screen, which gets a spam message from the anonymous person. Finally, she replied to the message. It turns out that the anonymous person asked her to meet tonight at school. As she waited alone in the classroom, the door suddenly opened and it was Jin Sung who came in. Here, Jin Sung admits that he has been waiting for Jin since the end of class, but Jin didn't come out of school. Because worried, he reasoned to wait and look for her. But when Jin tries to chase him away, Jin Sung waits for her outside the school building. Here, Jin began to suspect that the anonymous person might be Jin Sung. And sure enough, when Jin sent the anonymous account a message, Jin Sung's cell phone also rang. When Jin Sung typed a message on his cell phone. At the same time, the anonymous also replied to her message. Then scene flashback to Jin's first day at school as a transfer student. That day, the school atmosphere at Sangsil High School seemed crowded as usual. Jin came to school with her mother. Because Jin is quiet and doesn't have any friends yet, she chooses to spend a lot of time on the school roof. But suddenly, Jin Sung, who is both a transfer student, appears under the building. Jin, who was surprised, dropped her cell phone. Suddenly, Jin shouted not to see the contents of her cell phone. While in the cafeteria, Jin and Jin Sung, who do not have friends yet, just sit alone in the cafeteria. The next day during break time, because she felt uncomfortable eating in a crowded place, she went to the roof of the school to enjoy her lunch. But it turns out that the place is also where Jin Sung hides from the crowd. This is where they become acquainted and often eat lunch together. Then scene return to the night where she meets the anonymous person one. Here, she tries to match between the anonymous and Jin Sung. From liking cats, holding her when Jin faints during gym time or PE class, and his arrival at school that night, everything seems to be a coincidence. But here, Jin, who is very negative thinking, is imagining the impossible. Here, she is very afraid that Jin Sung will embarrass her. Arriving home, Jin cries because of her fear that if all her identity is revealed, Jin Sung will stay away. While crying, she looks at Jin Sung's photo on social media, but she unconsciously presses the love button on his photo with Jenny account. In the morning, Jin begins to realize that she mistakenly pressed love on Jin Sung's account. When they met on the roof of the school, Jin Sung casually told her that last night a celebrity named Jenny loved his account. Suddenly, Jin immediately changed the subject out of fear. Jin tries to test again whether the anonymous is really Jin Sung or not. When trying to chat with the anonymous and hoping that this time Jin Sung's cell phone rings. Unfortunately, Jin Sung's cell phone is being confiscated by the teacher. Jin is even more curious about who this anonymous person really is because he doesn't stop bothering Jin. The anonymous person even gave her a mission to wear pink lipstick to school tomorrow. Otherwise, her identity will be exposed. The next day, Jin actually wears pink lipstick at school. All the classmates laughed at her, not forgetting Hanul and say he took a selfie to embarrass Jin even more. However, fortunately, the teacher soon came and stopped the bullying. Jin immediately cried in the bathroom and removed the lipstick that made her bullied. Here, Jin looked very glum all day. When she got home from school, suddenly the anonymous account uploaded a picture that waiting for the bus in front of the bus stop. She rushed back to the bus stop and searched for the person behind this anonymous account. Anonymous kept sending her photos as if to lead Jin to go somewhere, and so she arrived at a deserted building. It turned out to be a bespectacled man named Kim Ho-in, who was also their class president. A month ago, Jenny uploaded a picture of her wearing a school uniform. However, after realizing that many people started tracking her school through the identity of the uniform, Jenny immediately deleted her photo. The power of netizens managed to capture the screen and spread the photo on social media. At first, Hoen thought that Jenny borrowed their school uniform. Hoen then investigated his schoolmates by finding out who was good at editing her body to look like Jenny. Among all the prettiest friends in each class, the most similar is Hanul, because she often wears similar items to Jenny. But after further investigation, all the items came from one person, that was Jin. The suspicion was even stronger when the school exam and all students were asked to collect their cell phones to the class leader. That's when only Jin's very noisy cell phone gets that many notifications. Plus, the bandage on Jin's hand is the same as the one Jenny posted that day. One day, all his suspicions were confirmed when Jin came to his favorite cafe and changed into Jenny. This is where Hoen's prank came into play. However, Hoen had no intention of divulging Jenny's identity. Hoen wants to keep the secret alone. In addition, it was revealed that Hoen's girlfriend turned out to be Hanul, the owner of the Amski account, who is also Jenny's best friend on social media. So this is how they became friends. She made a giveaway for the meaning of her name, and the winner was Amski. Since then, they have been messaging each other every day. Here, Amski, or Hanul, is honest about her family life. She is actually not from a rich family, and her relationship with her father is not good. Then scenes switched to the present again. Hanul came to Hoen's house, but Hoen was away driving Jin home. During the trip, Jin looked very glum reading Hanul's message. She was sad because her friendship was only limited to the virtual world. The next day, Hoen wanted to see how the real Jenny was doing. They decided to meet at a rooftop cafe. However, Jin, who doesn't trust, easily tries to check Hoen's glasses just in case there is a hidden camera there. While checking, Hoen suddenly appeared behind her. He said that he really wouldn't divulge Jenny's identity or even record her. To make Jin believe him, Hoen took off his shirt and showed her the wound on his shoulder. It's a sign that they will both hold secrets from each other. Then it was time for Jin to change her costume and make herself up as Jenny. Instantly, Hoen was mesmerized by her appearance. Hoen insists on helping take pictures with an alibi to make Jenny look like she has a friend. However, this makes Jin awkward. Finally, she did the photo shoot herself. Meanwhile, Hoen, who could only watch, still couldn't believe what he saw. The figure of Jenny, who was actually Jin, and she wasn't as ugly as she thought. She is quite beautiful and has a sexy body. Plus, the way she takes pictures is very interesting. After the photo shoot, Jin continued to edit her face. However, Hoen misfocused on her makeup because he looked too closely. When Jin looked over, they almost kissed. On the other hand, Hoen, who was busy spending time with Jin, ignored Hanul's message. Hanul was upset and confided in Jenny. She wants to look prettier, so that her fate is not like her mother, who was cheated on by her father. When going to bed, Jenny's account suddenly gets a message from Jin Sung, inviting her to get acquainted. Here, Jin, who likes overthinking even more, serves him as if Jenny is interested in him. She realizes that if Jin Sung responds in kind, it will hurt her feelings. Jin once again baits Jin Sung on whether he's a pervert or not. And sure enough, Jin Sung responds to the invitation. In the morning, Jin is very upset about last night. She felt very disgusted with Jin Sung for responding to Jenny's lewd invitation. During her time as Jenny, many perverted men used her body as an object of lewdness. She was often sent indecent photos as well. A-Jin wished Jin Sung was different from those men. Unfortunately, according to A-Jin, Jin Sung is as easily seduced as the other perverted men. Even when asked for a video, Jin Sung immediately sent it. Instantly, A-Jin was heartbroken by him. Arriving home, her mother immediately gave A-Jin a tonic drink so that she could fall asleep without delirium. However, A-Jin still couldn't sleep. That night, Jin Sung asked her to meet him because he wanted to tell her something. When they meet, A-Jin, who is very overthinking, feels that all of Jin Sung's kindness is fake. A-Jin feels very inferior and unworthy of love. However, Jin Sung was confused by everything A-Jin said. In fact, Jin Sung said goodbye and asked for a photo, because soon he will change schools and debut at an art school. That night, A-Jin still didn't dare open the video Jin Sung sent her. In the midst of her turmoil, she confided in Amski about her inappropriate expectations of Jin Sung. However, it turns out that Amski, or Han-Nul, is also upset about being ignored by her boyfriend. That night, she decided to block Jin Sung's account. In the morning, it was time for Jin Sung to really say goodbye to classmates. Secretly, A-Jin peeked through the window. To be honest, A-Jin was sad because she had to say goodbye to the person she had always liked. A-Jin went to the roof of the school, where they used to meet. There she found milk tea, a box of pendants, and a birthday card from Jin Sung. It wasn't her birthday yet, but Jin Sung decides gave it to her early, because he knew that if it was A-Jin's birthday, they wouldn't be able to meet. In her hallucinations, A-Jin imagines Jin Sung is still beside her. Crying, she says all her regrets. However, Hoen followed her from afar. Hoen was surprised to see A-Jin talking to herself and then crying. After A-Jin went home, Hoen went over to the chair and picked up the drink she left behind. It looks like Hoen is starting to get interested in A-Jin. When she returned home, he met Han-Nul, who was waiting for him. However, it seemed that Hoen didn't want to meet, so he immediately drove Han-Nul to the bus stop to go home. On the way, Han-Nul grabbed the drink Hoen was carrying and tried to open it. However, Hoen looked unhappy and immediately snatched it back. Han-Nul still tried to attract Hoen's attention by asking about her new dress that day, but Hoen ignored her, even saying that her bangs were very strange. At home, an upset Han-Nul tried to become more beautiful by exercising and dieting. She thought that Hoen was staying away because Han-Nul wasn't pretty anymore. After a while, her mother came and told her to eat, but suddenly her body seemed weak and held her chest. Han-Nul looked very worried and gave her a glass of drink, but her mother denied that she was sick. Actually, Han-Nul is a good girl, it's just that she's unlucky. Her father cheated on her and now she lives with her mother in a simple apartment. Her mother also became a single parent who supported Han-Nul as a food seller in a small shop. When Han-Nul wanted to contact Hoen, she was misplaced by a photo he had never seen before. The photo was taken by A-Jin when they did a photo shoot at the cafe. Han-Nul began to suspect that Hoen might be close to another woman. The next day, Han-Nul fell asleep in class and had a nightmare. She dreamed that A-Jin would leak to classmates that she was actually a poor girl. Then in the dream, Hoen seemed to be belittling her. Han-Nul also changed her bangs according to the trend to attract Hoen's attention. But unfortunately, Hoen chose to look for A-Jin on the roof of the school. There, Hoen was seen approaching A-Jin, but she refused and chased him away. Meanwhile, from a distance, it turned out that Han-Nul had seen it all. After the bell rang and everyone went to class, Han-Nul, who was very jealous of A-Jin, deliberately tripped her. A-Jin accidentally dropped Han-Nul's powder. When she wanted to replace it with a new one, Han-Nul, who was already full of jealousy, immediately beat her. She also pushed A-Jin to the ground and opened her skirt to become a class spectacle. Everyone was disgusted to see A-Jin's thighs. If they knew that A-Jin was Jenny, they would have praised her sexiness. But fortunately, Hoen, who was the class president, immediately entered and calmed down the commotion. A-Jin was very sad and immediately ran to the bathroom. She cried alone how hurt she was that Han-Nul was so nice to her on social media, but in real life she was so mean. Emotionally, she blocked Amski's account with her Jenny account. Let's flash back to the first day they met. So that day, A-Jin, who was a transfer student, was very happy when she found out that she was in the same class as Han-Nul, her social media friend. However, the quiet A-Jin could only look at her from afar. One day, Han-Nul was interested in the expensive watch that A-Jin was wearing. But Jin, who enjoyed chatting with her, immediately intended to give the watch for free. Meanwhile, Han-Nul, who is very fond of Jenny's figure, really wants to wear the same item. Plus, those items are expensive and she can't afford them. But one day, Ajin's family, who owns a property business and rents out many shophouses, tries to taste one of the foods sold in their shophouse. Well, it turned out that the tenant was Hanul's mother. Here, Hanul looks very embarrassed when she's helping her mother sell, even though at school she claimed to be a rich family's daughter. After finishing eating, they met. Here, Hanul asks her to keep the secret, and of course Ajin agrees. At school, they seem to become closer, and this made Sei feel jealous. Deliberately, he slanders Ajin by badmouthing her. Hanul immediately got angry and hit Ajin without confirming the truth. Now, Hanul and Ajin's friendship is ruined. Let's go back to the present. Now, Ajin, who is hurt by Hanul's treatment, chooses to block Jenny's account so that she no longer needs to communicate with her. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Hanul is on a date with Hoin. But it seems that Hoin is uncomfortable with being constantly photographed. When Hanul persuaded him to change their profile picture to a photo of the two of them, Hoin refused, because they have agreed to hide their relationship. After Jenny's account disappeared, there was a lot of bad news about Jenny. Some said she was the mistress of a rich man who was pregnant, and others. Because she was tired of being someone else, she intended to delete the account. But suddenly, the atmosphere in the classroom became noisy because of the arrival of a new student. This beautiful woman is named Sunmi Jin. She is a big fan of Jenny, so from head to toe, she changes her appearance like Jenny. She is very similar to Jenny on social media. Instantly, Ajin, who saw it, immediately didn't want to delete her account. She didn't expect that someone would copy Jenny's entire style to look that similar. In front of the mirror while looking at Jenny's photo, she copied the lipstick brand, school uniform, and hairstyle by 90%. In fact, everyone at the school was excited by the arrival of a Jenny lookalike. While in class, the teacher was also curious if there was a transfer student who looked like a celebrity. Mijin seemed to blush as if she was really Jenny. But Hanul, who has long been online friends with Jenny, doesn't believe that she is Jenny. She just imitated everything she had, while Ajin just kept quiet while continuing to wonder in her heart. During break time, many students from other classes came to see Mijin who looked like Jenny. The funny thing is, Mijin doesn't deny it. It turns out that Mijin is a pick-me type and also manipulative. She deliberately approaches unpopular classmates, including Ajin, so that she is known as a student who is not picky about friends. This strategy turned out to be enough to amaze the classmates, who praised her even more. After school, Ajin went to Hoen's house, because he's the only one who knows Jenny's true identity. Here, Hoen suggests that Jenny's account should never be deleted. If that's done, Mijin will completely usurp and take benefit from her fake identity. Then scene move on to Mijin's house. Here, she invites Ajin and some classmates who are quite an introvert. They were invited to eat pizza together, but Mijin's real intention, she wanted to bring down Hanul so she could be the most popular in the class. Among them, there was also Sei, who came. It turns out that Sei is an opportunistic girl. She will approach students who look popular in order to climb socially class 2. If she used to approach Hanul, who was the prettiest, now she started approaching Mijin, whose face looks like Jenny. When Mijin reveals her cunning intention to antagonize Hanul, Ajin defends her. She objected because deep in her heart, Hanul was her best friend on social media. She also advised Mijin not to make enemies in order to be popular. Here, Mijin looks checkmate, but she is still trying to acquire Jenny's identity. She asked Ajin not to discuss social media at school. When she got home, she deliberately posted a picture of her at the cafe so that her friends would realize that Mijin was a fake Jenny. And sure enough, the next morning, her classmates asked Mijin when she took the photo at the cafe. They were together all day yesterday. Mijin was stunned and tried to change the subject. Meanwhile, Hanul began to suspect why all the items given by Ajin were very similar to those worn by Jenny. Then the photo at the cafe, why is the location the same as Hoen's profile picture? Here, Hanul still tried to dismiss her suspicions, because it seemed impossible if Ajin and Jenny were the same person. Although her heart was full of suspicion, Hanul tried to cover it up and still chatted with Jenny. She vented about the presence of Mijin, whose figure was similar to Jenny. She also asked about the location of the cafe where she was photographed. Ajin lied that she didn't know the place, even though her photo was clearly in the cafe. Hanul became more suspicious. Here, she also invited a video call, but Ajin refused on the grounds that she was eating bread. Carelessly, Ajin sent a photo of the bread she ate without any suspicion. When she wanted to return back to class, she suddenly met Hanul, who saw the same brand of bread in her hand. The story immediately moves to Hanul's real life. Here, scene are brought back to Hanul's past. Hanul's father used to fall in love with his mother while playing a drama. They got married and Hanul was born. Her father, who was an office worker, decided to resign and start a business. However, the journey was never smooth. In 10 years, her father has failed business many times, making her mother miserable and having to work hard. But in his fourth business, her father succeeded. Instead of being happy, her father cheated on her with a more beautiful woman. Young Hanul was already heartbroken by her own father. From then on, she thought that those who weren't beautiful would be cheated on. Then Scene moved to Sae-hee, who was having me time with Mi-jin. There, Sae-hee initially just wanted to cut her bangs. But Mi-jin, who doesn't like to see other people looking beautiful, encourages her to cut them short like Emma Watson. Sae-hee, who didn't know what style was, immediately agreed. Meanwhile, Mi-jin is now showing her true colors. She doesn't like being close to Sae-hee. The day also changed. Sae-hee, who usually likes to bully people, is now got bully of the whole class. In the midst of the bullying, Mi-jin again intervenes as if defending Sae-hee. She does that so that in class she looks the prettiest. Meanwhile, in the corner, A-jin is getting annoyed at her behavior. Scene then moved to Hanul, who's trying to prove her suspicion that A-jin is the person behind Jenny's account. And sure enough, when trying to chat, A-jin's cell phone keeps ringing. Now A-jin is starting to realize that Hanul is suspicious. She was upset, thinking of ways to cover it up. While daydreaming on the roof of the school building, Hoen suddenly appeared and lay next to her. Because they considered friends, they joked together. This was apparently seen by Hanul, who secretly followed him. After school, Hanul became angry with Hoen. But Hoen tried to dodge and said he was the class president. He was asked by the teacher to make sure A-jin was no longer bullied by Hanul. Here, Hanul still doesn't believe it. That night, Hanul tries searching how Photoshop can completely change someone's face, and now Hanul is even more convinced that A-jin is Jenny. She was so panicked. How could the person she always bullied at school become her best friend on social media? Another day passes. After school, A-jin meets Hoen because she feels that Hanul has started to know who Jenny really is. As for Hanul, she visited a cafe and asked if a celebrity named Jenny had ever come to the cafe. However, the cafe keeper said that she might have come with Hoen before the cafe opened. At school, Mi-jin and Sae-hee are getting worse. They deliberately nudged Hanul's cell phone until it fell and teased her. Already upset about being betrayed by her best friend, she's even more upset about being lied to by the person behind Jenny's account. She secretly took a picture of A-jin from the window and skipped class. Hoen and A-jin became curious about where she went. Fortunately, Hoen can track Hanul's whereabouts. After being traced, it turns out that she went to Sohin Women High School, which is where A-jin used to go to school. There, she met the students who had come home from school and tried to interrogate them. Did they ever see Jenny leave for school? Here, they even look confused. At the same time, Jenny's number surprisingly requests a video call. Well, when she answered, Jenny's face appeared on the screen. Hanul looked happy and somewhat believed that Jenny really existed. But it turns out that behind it is Hoen's idea to use a full AI filter so that during a video call her face can change. But the disadvantage is just not to move much because the face detection sensor will not work. While on the phone, unfortunately, suddenly their cell phones both get calls from parents. As a result, this messes up the face detection sensor and her face is faintly visible. Hoen, who panicked, immediately turned off the phone. It turned out that Hanul had a glimpse of Jenny's changing face to A-jin's face. Here, she also asked the two students at Sohin High School again. And yes, the one they knew wasn't Jenny, but A-jin. After knowing that fact, she was suddenly informed by the hospital if her mother died of heart disease. But Hanul held back all the sadness that raged in her heart. Hanul came to the hospital alone and walked into her mother's room, which was covered with a white cloth. When she saw her mother, who was lying stiff, her tears broke out. Poor Hanul sat alone in front of her mother's resting place. Then A-jin's family came to pay their last respects. A-jin tried to comfort her. If you are very sad, cry as much as you can. If you are tired, eat and drink. Then spend your tears and sadness until there's nothing left. But here, Hanul is angry with A-jin, who already suspected she was Jenny. So for the sake of a video call with her, she ignores the call from her mother, which turns out to be the last moments before her mother died. Scene then move on to A-jin's recurring dream, where in a dream her hands were covered in blood as if she was hurting a woman with Jenny's face. After waking up from her dream, A-jin was very scared. At school, A-jin felt very guilty to Hanul, but A-jin just kept silent and kept Hanul's grief a secret. She knew that if it was revealed in class, her friends would know that Hanul wasn't from a rich family. Then C moved to Sae-hee and Mi-jin at the cafe. This Mi-jin still claims that she is the owner of Jenny's account, but her habits are not in sync and similar with the real Jenny. Where it is mentioned that on social media Jenny really likes sweets, while Mi-jin doesn't like sweets. Here, Sae-hee still doesn't realize. She then persuades Mi-jin to upload their hangout photos, so that netizens know that Jenny also has friends in her real life. But Mi-jin refuses and is good at making excuses. She refused because it was her privacy. Then Mi-jin changed the topic to Hanul. It seems that Mi-jin wants to win Hanul's popularity by being the most beautiful woman in the class. The day changed. The first lesson was sports P class, but Hanul looked unwell and asked permission to go to the school clinic. When all the students back to class, A-jin looked confused, searching for Jin Sung's lost necklace. Here she told Ho-in, and Ho-in forwarded it to the classroom teacher. But it turns out that Sae overheard on their conversation and then spread the loss in class. She also pretends to be nice to A-jin and asks her who she thinks stole it. Even though A-jin suspected the culprit was Sae because of her loudest voice and overreacted. But again, Mi-jin interfered and accused the culprit of being Hanul, who didn't participate in sports class because she was sick. Mi-jin also came to her desk and grabbed something that Hanul was holding and threw it. Sae, who used to be her best friend, now changed drastically by mocking her. Hanul, who didn't accept her stuff being thrown and insulted, immediately slapped Sae at that time. Meanwhile, Mi-jin impudently searched her bag and found A-jin's necklace. Here, Sae deliberately put it in to slander Hanul. Meanwhile, Hanul, who was grieving, was completely helpless against the two of them. She just resigned herself to being pushed and having her skirt opened in front of many people. As she stared at her boyfriend from afar, but Ho-in didn't try to defend her. It was only A-jin who took the initiative to stop the bullying and took Hanul to the restroom. But here, Hanul still refused A-jin kindness. Because she saw Hanul wanted to be alone, she left her and immediately hit the cowardly Ho-in. Here, Ho-in argued that he didn't want to get the huge attention. Meanwhile, A-jin refused to hate Hanul. She even forgave her, and now really dislikes Mi-jin, who pretends to be Jenny. After scolding Ho-in, she went to class and hit Sae. It seemed very strange for Sae to suddenly get angry and defend A-jin, who lost the necklace, whereas usually she always bullies her. This must be part of Mi-jin's evil plan to destroy Hanul. Strangely enough, Sae also knew that the necklace was round and expensive. It's discovered that it was Sae who put the necklace in Hanul's bag. When she glances at Mi-jin to save herself from the accusations of the whole class, she's playing victim, and she pretended to cry to get sympathy. Now the whole class turned to blame Sae. She was very emotional because she was framed. She angrily sprayed a fire extinguisher all over the class, and of course that had become chaotic. Now Sae is hated by everyone in her class. As for A-jin, she finally confesses that she's the one behind Jenny. Now, let's move on to the news of Jin Sung, who has started to get busy with his debut. As for A-jin, she has now written a confession letter about her feelings for Jin Sung. In the letter, she said that all this time getting love from Jin Sung was a very impossible thing. That's why she made a very high fortress, so that her love wouldn't go too far. But she feels guilty because she has denied her feelings a lot. A-jin also didn't forget to slip an unedited photo of herself into the letter. Jin Sung smiled as he read it, and that gave him the strength to make his debut. Now scene return to the classroom, where A-jin finally makes a confession that she's Jenny. Hanul immediately gets angry and pulls her collar. Here, Hanul was angry because she felt she was being played. She's ashamed of the way she bullies A-jin during the day, but at night, they're friends on social media. Why didn't A-jin admit it from the beginning? Then A-jin asked back if she confessed whether they could still be friends. During the fight, Mi-jin secretly followed her and heard all their conversations. That night, A-jin and Hanul both cried over their friendship. The day changed. Hanul asked Ho-in to break up. She felt very tired of her sincerity being reciprocated inadequately. She was tired of being in a relationship where only she herself struggled. Although very sad, Hanul prefers to break up because she doesn't want to continue to be wasted. The days go by, now the final exam is over. The relationship between Ho-in, Hanul, and A-jin became very awkward. Meanwhile, Sae is now a quiet person and no one wants to be friends with her. And Mi-jin, the con artist, became even more outrageous in front of Jenny's fans. She feels proud because she's adored by her friends. During break time, Hanul accidentally nudges Mi-jin's lipstick until it falls off. Then she returned it and apologized. But the arrogant Mi-jin challenged her. She said this lipstick was an endorsement item, so it shouldn't be broken. A-jin, who heard the lie, was even more fed up with Mi-jin pretending to be Jenny. A-jin also secretly posted on Jenny's account with the hashtag "Be careful with fake Jenny." All in class became confused. Now Mi-jin is bullying Hanul. But when she could post that photo, and now when she wasn't even holding a cell phone. Her friends suspected that she was a fake Jenny. Mi-jin also panicked and argued that the one who posted on the account was her mother. Meanwhile, Hanul began to realize that A-jin was defending her. After school, Hanul tried to apologize and explain that even though A-jin wasn't a celebrity like Jenny, she would still be friends with her. But A-jin didn't seem to believe her words. When she gets home and enters her room, A-jin's mother invites her to have a one-on-one talk. Her mother felt that A-Jin was having a mental breakdown. She thinks A-Jin is hallucinating that she has an older sister who looks like little Jenny. Then we are shown a story from her childhood, where A-Jin was once almost in a car accident, but her sister came and saved her. That's the reason why in some scenes it's always shown that A-Jin has nightmares of killing her sister with bloody hands. The days went by. That morning at sports time, A-Jin seemed unable to concentrate. While in class, Mi-Jin secretly searched A-Jin's bag and stole her cell phone. It turns out that she can know the passcode to open the cell phone. In order to become Jenny, she took a selfie and posted it on Jenny's account without editing it. The class became excited and more convinced that Mi-Jin was really Jenny, while A-Jin was confused looking for her cell phone that had disappeared. In the classroom, only Ho-In and Hae-Newell knew that her account had been stolen. The scene then takes into Ho-In's real life. He is seen consulting with a psychiatrist, where at one time he had intended to end his life. The reason was because her father was a loan shark who suddenly became wealthy. Her father, who was strict, often beat him if Ho-In didn't live up to his father's expectations. Ho-In then burned down his house and killed his father. This fear also made him absent-minded and unwilling to speak a word. He also tried to hide his emotions, whether he was sad or scared. Over time, he hid his unstable emotional problems and tried to be a normal teenager. Without realizing it here, Ho-In was crying. Back to the excited classroom atmosphere because they saw Jenny's account posting Mi-Jin's face wearing an unedited school uniform. A-Jin then went to her and asked for a one-on-one talk. Here, A-Jin asked for her account to be returned, but Mi-Jin offered to just give the account to her, and she would keep the real facts a secret. But A-Jin still refused the offer. Mi-Jin, who was upset, didn't want to return her cell phone. She even more recklessly opened all the messages on Jenny's account, then opened Jin Sung's messages in the past. Here, she would use the lewd video as a weapon to threaten A-Jin. In the classroom, A-Jin became even more pretentious. Meanwhile, A-Jin looked very desperate. But in the classroom, there were secretly Ho-In, Hae-Newell, and Sehee who sided with A-Jin's defense. Here, Mi-Jin became more and over by posting photos as she pleased, but netizens began to feel strange in Jenny's account posts that didn't display endorsed items. Meanwhile, A-Jin, who was annoyed, then changed the account password on her home computer. Mi-Jin, who doesn't know that Jenny's account has changed passwords, is increasingly engrossed in taking selfies with her two friends. Mi-Jin chose the prettiest photo without caring about her two friends who looked ugly. When she wanted to post, she suddenly couldn't log into that account. In her heart, she was very annoyed with A-Jin. Meanwhile, A-Jin was no choice to buy a new cell phone and call Ho-In. Here, Ho-In invited A-Jin to her house and gave her a secret about Mi-Jin's past. Well, so secretly Ho-In finds out Mi-Jin's identity from her old school. There he met an account in charge of posting photos in class. But Mi-Jin, who is pick-me and crazy to be praised person, asked the account admin to keep posting her. After an appointment with the admin, who is also Mi-Jin's old friend, they finally met. Here, she reveals that Mi-Jin deliberately approaches introvert and loners, then tries to seem nice. But secretly, she is a target to be bullied to make Mi-Jin name better than she. But the victims of her old school tried to fight back. Mi-Jin, who was afraid, finally escaped by changing schools, so it can be concluded that Mi-Jin is a sociopath. In order to get her wish, she will do everything possible, even if the risk is very dangerous. And the next easy target that Mi-Jin will destroy is Hae-Newell's life. At night, she reflected on her days as Jenny. In her deepest heart, she actually longs and missed to be herself. She's jealous of how many people post as they are without editing. A-Jin feels that being Jenny on social media is full of falsehood. Meanwhile, Ho-In that night, he told Hae-Newell to be careful because she would be Mi-Jin's next target. The day also changed. That morning, it was predictable that Mi-Jin's target was to approach Hae-Newell and pretend to praise her. She deliberately did that to make A-Jin jealous. On purpose, Mi-Jin invited Hae-Newell to take a photo together. Here, Hae-Newell's face looks still alerted. During break time, A-Jin was still trying to get her cell phone back. The cunning Mi-Jin again mentally attacked A-Jin so that she would keep and still feel guilty. She makes all kinds of threats, even about the lewd video Jin Sung sent her. Here, A-Jin is very emotional and fears that if the video gets out, it will automatically destroy Jin Sung's rising career. Later that night, A-Jin's depression intensified. She kept having nightmares and delirium. Her mother became increasingly worried and planned to take A-Jin to a psychiatric hospital. On the way to school on the bus, A-Jin went into a haze again and felt very scared of everyone. Arriving at school, all the posters of Jenny's live stream have been put up on the wall and it makes her very sick. Plus, Mi-Jin kept forcing and asking her for the password. Finally, A-Jin, who couldn't stand her fear, chose to ask Ho-In for help. She was honest about Mi-Jin's threat to spread Jin Sung's lewd video, even though she herself had never opened and watched the video. The day of the festival arrived. The halls are filled with students having fun, while A-Jin looks very scared to see everyone. Elsewhere, there are Mi-Jin and Han-Nul who look closely walking around. They stop and watch a magic show. The magician is stunned to see the beautiful Mi-Jin and asks her to come on stage. There, the magician asks Mi-Jin to put down her bag and invites her to play magic. After the magic was over, Mi-Jin came down from the stage and looked for Han-Nul, who had suddenly disappeared. When Mi-Jin went to take her cell phone, she realized that A-Jin's cell phone that she stole had disappeared. After looking at the magician took off his mask, which turned out to be Ho-In. She was angry and pushed Han-Nul into the warehouse. Here she realized that Han-Nul and Ho had conspired to trap her. Mi-Jin, who lost control, immediately slapped her, but Ho-In immediately came and saved Han-Nul. Ho-In also threw A-Jin's cell phone and stepped on it until it broke into pieces. However, Mi-Jin, who is cunning, has actually used data recovery services in advance so that she can retrieve the obscene video sent by Jin Sung. On the other hand, Ho-In, who felt that he had successfully destroyed the video, informed A-Jin that she could feel calm. But suddenly, Mi-Jin is beside her and asks for the password so she can log into Jenny's account. Mi-Jin threatens again if she has recovered the data and the obscene video is in her hands. A-Jin, who was relieved, became even more frightened by the threat. But here, A-Jin still refuses to give the password. She will pay for all the sins of her lies. As she enters the field, unexpectedly, Jin Sung, who has now become an idol, comes to visit her school, but Jin Sung casually walks up to her and asks for a one-on-one talk. Here, A-Jin felt that she didn't deserve Jin Sung's love. She returns the necklace he gave her. When she goes to the hall, all the students are excited as the projector screen prepares to show Jin Sung's video. Here, A-Jin takes a brave stand by going on stage and preparing to confess all her lies. But before she's finished confessing, Jin Sung suddenly plays the video, which turns out not to be a perverted video, but the video of Jin Sung dancing. Suddenly, the students were even more crazy about Jin Sung, who surrounded him. He was also asked what his relationship with Jenny was. Here, Jin Sung revealed implicitly, if from the beginning he knew who the person behind Jenny was, but you loved her more for who she was. Here, A-Jin was moved to hear all the confessions. After Jin Sung reveals his feelings, he is immediately surrounded by women. However, A-Jin is very relieved to hear Jin Sung's honest statement. Now scene moved to Mi-Jin, who looks exasperated that all her evil plans have failed miserably. The students get suspicious when Jin Sung doesn't recognize Mi-Jin as Jenny. Her friends are also starting to get annoyed that Mi-Jin hasn't been live streaming. While Mi-Jin is being cornered, Jenny's account suddenly posts again that she supports Jin Sung's debut album and admits that her account was hacked by someone a while ago. Finally, her lie was exposed. Everyone now looks uncomfortable seeing Mi-Jin. However, she still tries to defend herself by saying that A-Jin is Jenny. Yes, of course, everyone doesn't believe her because she's physically different. Emotionally, Mi-Jin attacks A-Jin in front of everyone. Ho-In and Han-Nul came on time and defended her. Now, everyone thinks Mi-Jin is crazy. When Mi-Jin was angry, he suddenly appeared and poured hot water on her face. Mi-Jin screams in pain and collapses on the floor. Now Mi-Jin is dimmed and she has to bear all her deeds. Cut to Jin Sung meeting A-Jin. He reattaches the moon pendant necklace and says that she is his first love. After that, unexpectedly, he kisses her on the lips. The atmosphere turns awkward between them. Then move on to Ho-In and Han-Nul's relationship. That night, Ho-In finally went to Han-Nul's small home. There he was honest that he was the perpetrator who had burned down his house and family when he was in middle school. He also confessed that he was emotionally disturbed, so he could never express his feelings. Now the scene moves to the psychiatric hospital. They're seeing A-Jin and her father talking about her mother. So it is revealed that it was her mother who had a mental breakdown after the death of A-Jin twins, who were her sisters. After the incident, her mother lost her memory as if A-Jin's sister never existed. Her mother also suffered from anxiety disorder. When visited at the hospital, her mother was seen staring at the ceiling. She said she saw her twin sister named Hee-Jin. So Hee-Jin used to be a very beautiful girl, all her friends admired her. But because they were physically different, A-Jin thought that Hee-Jin was embarrassed to have a sister like her. For this reason, when called, A-Jin chose to run away instead. After that incident, she was always haunted by guilt. That's why Jenny's account was created, or Jenny's face is a combination of her face and her sister. Now A-Jin and Han-Nul's relationship has also improved. Han-Nul was invited to her house and saw the entire room full of Jenny's belongings, from wigs, makeup, and photo props. Here they make up and cry and laugh with each other. At the end of the story, A-Jin finally decides to reveal her identity. She live streams, takes off her wig, softens, and also removes her makeup. She changed her name from Jenny to A-Jin. When she posted, her followers decreased considerably. She is now abandoned by her fans. But she seems happier being herself. One by one, she deleted Jenny's photos and left photos of her real face. Here she realized, don't compare yourself to unreal beauty standards. It's okay if you're not perfect. And the series ended.